So, hello, and welcome to another episode of Inspired Good Fat Life. And oh my gosh, what an inspiring day we are having today. And I am so proud of myself because I just got done with the Pilates, and my body ached from doing a rock climb, and I went anyway. So anyways, but I am delighted, beyond delighted, to welcome our guest today. It's a CEO for Good Fat Company, which is a sister company to Good Fat Life, and Terry Duperon. So welcome, Terry.
Hi, Sherri. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we have had such a journey together.
We have.
So Terry's been a clean food advocate for like over 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Terry and I met, 12?
So at least, I think, maybe 15 years now.
It's been a long time, like at the beginning when I first left the corporate world, and we always wanted to do a project together.
Yes.
But it had to be the right project. And Terry came to me one day and said, "Hey, what would you think about doing a good fat bar?" Right? And so I'll let you talk about that a little bit, Terry. Yeah.
Yes. I remember with actually talking to Dr. Darren when him and I were in conversation and started to learn about the impact of low carb, good fat, getting away from the sugars and the chronic illnesses. And I had a different bar I was working on then. It wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. It was a good bar. And he said, "No, I don't want this. I want something that is the macros focused on the fat and low carb." And I said, "Well, let's create it then. Let's do that." And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I said, "Well, there's another person that we have to bring in to the fold here, and who's a financial whiz and the whole business infrastructure around finances. We have to get Sherri on board." And so that's when I came to you and said, "Sherri, you have to do this." I don't think I said, "Will you do this?" I said, "You have to do this," if I remember right.
So it's just so interesting how things kind of come around, right?
Yeah.
So my grandpa was a chiropractor in 1945 and really was an advocate of clean, good, solid food. And we always ate good fat, but nobody called it out then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I became a teenager and it was like fat was bad.
Right.
So we stopped eating fat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Low fat.
Low fat everything.
High carb, lots of sugar.
High carb, lots of sugar, high fructose.
Yeah.
And so that's the way the world went. And so you talk about that because you've done a lot of research around the outcome of that switch.
Yeah. I mean, the pandemic of chronic illness just exploded in that 20-year time of saying low fat or fat is bad for you. You should eat low fat. And, that's when you saw obesity, you saw diabetes, you saw other chronic health issues just
right. Well, and now
go through the roof.
And now diabetes is called Alzheimer's is called, diabetes number 3.
Yeah.
Diabetes 3. It's
yeah.
So much life slow. So what was your journey? Why when Dr. Schmidt said, a good fat bar, did that resonate for you?
Yeah. So I had, previous to that, I worked on some other food stuff, and I don't know what it was. I just said, I can't do this anymore. I didn't feel good about the products themselves. So that was somewhat of a precipice to really engaging in like clean foods and becoming a clean food advocate. And I know chronic illness and the impact, because when I was a kid, like second, third grade, I had lost my thyroid glands and went undiagnosed for several years. And it wasn't that my parents didn't take me to the doctors and all of that. They did many times. Nobody knew what was going on until I went to U of M, and they looked at me and said, "This is what's going on." It was phenomenal. It was completely life-changing. But the impact of having thyroid disease was, I went from this thin, active kid that would race anybody, always wanted to race people running down the road, to having a hard time getting out of bed, became very overweight.
Wow.
Yeah, my skin changed, my hair changed, and it was devastating. And what happened at school, the time off, and then getting teased, and kids don't understand.
They don't understand.
So, but it was devastating.
So, and and we hear stories like that over and over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of what kicked me on the journey and was so open to what you had to say was I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia as the early 40s, and the diagnosis was the prognosis, right? My big P word was, just you're going to take these pills for the rest of your life and just get used to it.
Right.
And, I won't say on the air my comments, but that's just not going to work.
Right.
There had to be a different way. And so I learned to meditate and stuff, and kind of one thing leads to the next. But food has such an impact on how we show up.
It really does. I mean, if you listen to any of the prominent doctors in the whole, more of the holistic, but even those that have a balanced view. So it's not, no Western medicine who are very research based. There's inflammation really is the disease of our lifetime is from inflammation, and inflammation comes from eating bad food.
Bad food, right? So, so let's talk about the good fat. So we like to joke to be living your good fat life, right?
Yeah.
And you can't carry an avocado. Avocado is not an easy thing to carry around, right? When you're needing a snack, and we're snackers, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not just the U.S. The world are snackers.
Yeah.
When the research that we had done, and Terry and I, when we were researching the bar, we probably looked at 10,000 bars. We just went to every store we could find. We looked at all the bars. We read the labels when we were working on formulating what the macros need to look like, what it needed to taste like, where we sourced the ingredients, the packaging. We worked with experts, and it was about a 3-year process, as I remember, on getting the bar right.
It was, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then Good Fat Life was born, the media company, because people who understood that good fat was good for them wanted to know more. Right. And also the people who didn't understand about fat, we had to find a way to communicate the value of the good fat.
Yeah, that was a significant piece for us. And starting off in the chiropractic community like we did was because we knew they would educate people, and they were already talking about good fat and changing this whole paradigm of fat. Like even when we're at events now, people will chuckle at Good Fat, the brand, and we share with them, the value of good fat and their health. And I mean, a lot of people know it now, but yeah, educating was key.
But still, a lot of people don't. So,
True.
So what we found and what we learned from Dr. Schmidt was that when you eat good fat, right, your blood sugar levels, you think clear, your brain fog goes away, you're satiated, you feel good, so you're not hungry. I mean, I know before I really understood the value of good fat and eating good fat, I was like always thinking about when my next food was. And it was like, because with carbs, the more you eat, the more you want.
Right.
You never get satisfied.
Right.
And but with good fat, you eat it and you're happy. You just you think about other stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely very satiated when you eat good fat, clean fat too.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the clean fat.
So we're a little bit prejudiced because that's what we use, but I think research shows it too, is we use organic cacao butter in our bars. And that's like the best source of plant-based fat. It's got antioxidants. There's so many health benefits to eating organic cacao butter versus, some other highly processed fats that, you're not going to get the same feeling in your body, because your body knows. Eventually, that's the other thing. Eventually, when you're eating more good fat and low carbs, your body really starts to tell you very quickly what works for you, what gives you good energy. And even sometimes I can pick something up and no, it's not.
It's not going to work, right? Yeah. It's amazing how when we start paying attention to our bodies, it's very vocal, right?
And that is the thing with, trying to find that balance with, because I know there's the whole thing with Western medicine, Eastern medicine, and all of that, and both has a role. But ultimately, our body knows the truth. We can get educated in various ways, but our body really knows what is good for us.
Right. And what I've learned in this journey is how much fat you need is different than how much I need or the next person needs. And so there's not a one size fits all. And that's been really eye-opening to me is, because we started pretty heavy keto when we first started. And, that doesn't work for me, but low carb, good fat, and then vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's been, and it's still an ongoing process to figure it out.
It is, and it's amazing how it's changing with when we started off in good fat and the keto conversation. And I'm like you, I eat vegetables, I eat fruit. I mean, I have a much more of a balance, and that works for me. But if you remember, people originally were saying don't eat much protein,
right,
on keto. Now they're saying, no, you need to eat good protein as well. So and that was not the conversation in the beginning.
And fiber.
And fiber
is critical too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But I love it when you say that our bodies know, because if we are eating right foods, you can tell the difference.
Yes.
And your brain knows. And I mean, I have one client who pretty much just eats meat. And I can tell the difference just looking at him with his energy, and the way his, just his expressions when he's eating more than meat.
Yeah, I know somebody too. He's 82 years old, and he eats primarily meat, and that actually is working for him.
Right.
So you bring up a really good point that not everybody's body is the same, and ultimately listening to your body and figuring out what your body how it's optimal is what's right for you.
Right.
So we don't preach that this is the way everybody should eat, because some people body is not made that way.
Exactly. And so we are really united on that front that you've got to do what works for you.
Right.
But start here. You can start if you don't know what to do, because I hear this all the time. It's like, I just don't feel good and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I will always say, just start by eating, an avocado.
And
see how you feel.
Yeah. And as you do that long enough, we have birthday parties, we have grandkids, which is all lovely with, but they bring in traditional cake and stuff. I don't even care for most cakes and desserts. I still like potato chips, but but the traditional sugar desserts and candies, I don't have a craving for them, or I don't enjoy the flavor, because most of it is not really high quality food, for one thing. But with eating more fat, you crave less sugar,
right?
And carbs.
In fact, I find when I eat sugar now, I generally don't even eat it, because I know I'm gonna be like wanting to just curl up in a ball under the table, because I just don't feel good. It just like sucks my energy.
Yeah, like after the kids' parties and I indulge, it literally takes me 4 or 5 days for my body to flush that out. Now, there are times that people do use really high quality ingredients, and there's some sugar in that with the desserts. That's different. It's still, I wouldn't be eating it every day, all day, but it's a different experience than eating highly processed sugar as well.
So talk about, I'm one of the things that I learned as I've been listening to my body and going to I have a functional nutritionist and taking tests and stuff, is that I'm not celiac, but I'm highly gluten sensitive. So I've been eating gluten-free for the past year. And it's a challenge. I love bread.
Yes.
Bread and cheese, or, a baguette. And you have some phenomenal gluten-free desserts.
We do.
That full of good fat. And every time I have an event, that is like the cherry on the event, right? And people are just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So tell us about that.
So yeah, and thank you, Sherri. You contribute so much to us with having our desserts at your events and stuff. I really appreciate that. And you're always talking about it and helping us get into locations, and that's very generous of you. That's just who you are as a person.
Oh,
and,
let's take a little quick commercial then. So in our latest magazine of Good Fat Life, you can find our magazine. It's in print, but yes, in right here is I got it this right. I'm so backwards. Yeah, so here's all the information on where you can find good fat bars and desserts and the ingredients in them. So anyways, you can go to goodfatlife.com and learn more about that. So
yes, and thank you for that, Sherri.
So tell us about the desserts.
Yeah, so the desserts, we've been focused on the bars, and they're a purist bar. So as far as people with diabetes, what we've learned is the bars are not their favorite. Although we're working on a couple things to change that, because the value of the fat, if they were eating that in the morning, would make a profound impact on their day. So we developed desserts. Actually, initially, my daughter Rachel had the idea, like, Dad, we should do strawberry cheesecake. I said, all right, well, let's try it, and she did actually the first formulation on the strawberry cheesecakes. So what we did is it's real ingredients, heavy whipping cream, real cream cheese, real strawberries, and we use almond flour for crumble.
Okay.
So that gives us a gluten-free dessert, and it's made a difference for people. I mean, people buy it as gifts for people who, it's even, I hear more about the gluten-free than even the good fat or the low carb or the low sugar, because that seems to be more on people's mind today. But the desserts are fantastic, and they do meet that criteria of gluten-free, and people with celiac disease actually have tried them. We always tell people, because we know the severity of celiac is a wide range, but test it for yourself. We've had very good
success. Well, they are delicious, and it is such a joy. It really is. It's such a joy to know that there are desserts there that I can eat, I can serve, that people, it doesn't matter if you're gluten-free or not, because I find this too. It's like, so I'll have gluten-free something, and the people around me are like, well, okay, that's for you, but I'm not eating that. I'm going to eat this or this or this. And it's like, okay, fine. But if somebody's coming to my home or I'm going somewhere, it's just such a joy to be able to share or take and bring something that I know they're going to love. Right. And I don't even have to say it's gluten-free. It's just like, hey, do you want a strawberry cheesecake or a pumpkin mousse or a chocolate mousse? And they're like, oh, sure. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because people have associated gluten-free, no added sugar, or especially in the diabetes world, like stuff that tastes really bad. It has a poor texture. So when you say that, like I'm even when we demo and stuff at an event, I'm always nervous about what to say, because sometimes you say gluten-free and they'll almost run away from you. Or you say no added sugar. Forget that. I don't want that crap. That's their first response.
Or it's high fat. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Or higher calorie too is the other thing that I think is even more of the educational flow now too, is the 100 calorie snack is not really necessarily the best snack for you. So higher calories typically represent more real food ingredients.
And you're going to, and you stay, and you're talking about 200 calories instead of 100 calories.
Or 300.
Oh, 300 calories.
If you eat the whole container, yeah.
Right. But it's still, it's so delicious and so satisfying, and you feel good, and you're not hungry for hours.
Yeah.
So 300 calories is fine in the whole, if you look at it overall.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
It's a good 300 calories.
Yeah. If we were going to eat chips, or you're going to eat a bagel, or you're going to eat something, you could hit 500 calories pretty easy.
Easy.
And get no nutrition.
Yeah, and feel bad.
And feel bad.
Your taste buds might say yes on the chips.
Yeah, and what more?
Yeah.
And what more? Well, so what, so you manufacture this here in Michigan,
Yep.
right? And so if people want them, so they live in Oregon. How does that work?
So they can go to the website. We ship anywhere in the continental U.S. We have shipped to Hawaii too. But yeah, they can go to the website. If they're local, we're also collaborating with Market Wagon that they can order, and Market Wagon delivers every Tuesday to your house.
Okay.
It's like a $7 delivery fee. So you can order that way locally, but we can ship anywhere.
Okay. All right.
And
so
we've shipped in the hottest environments,
oh my gosh.
which is even gotten more difficult.
Right. Yeah. So just picture this though. It's so magic actually that we're having this conversation, because when we first started, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the post office in line, shipping out bars.
Yes.
Our pool table was the packing station, and the weather. Terry and I were watching the weather constantly because we wanted to be sure that the bars got there in perfect condition, unmelted in a 100-degree temperature. So
right, and that speaks to our products too, because this was one of the things that we committed on early. If you remember, that we weren't going to mess with the DNA of the fat.
Right.
So we said, no, we're going to be the cacao butter, and we're going to stick with the purity of that DNA. Where other chocolates and products, they add palm oil or do different things with the DNA to raise the melting point. So we said we're going to keep it as a natural melting point, which is, upper 80s or low 90s, depending on the environment. So we said, no, we're going to figure out a way to ship these and keep it pure.
And we did.
We did.
But you mentioned something else that was a huge thing, was getting pure cacao butter.
Yes.
Right. And sourced from locations that had fair trade practices and were good to their people and good to the environment and the plant. That was a huge priority for us.
It was.
And it took a lot of extra work and time to find those resources.
Sure did.
But we've been... It's definitely been a journey. And the fact that we're here talking about it just makes my heart sing, right?
Yeah.
So what you had mentioned, diabetes as a disease, but also I've had a couple people who have just called me out of the blue and said, good fat saved my life. Mm-hmm. ADD is an issue with that. So talk about that a little bit too, and how that changes.
Well, definitely with the low fat, it's with you think better, you process your problem solve, you can focus better. What I would say about ADD because that's something I deal with personally and have struggled with throughout my life. I look back even into kindergarten and elementary school, and where I couldn't do things. That wasn't an intelligence issue. It was I just couldn't focus.
Focus, right.
And
it's never about intelligence, has been my experience.
No,
it's not about intelligence. It's just focus.
It's focus. It really fundamentally is about focus. And when you can focus and then have your intelligence, like you can really start to implement and produce results that are in alignment with what you want to be doing with your life. And for me, I struggled for a long time not being able to implement. I could create, like I've created brands, I've done different things. I could create brilliant stuff, but I couldn't stay focused enough to implement and manage everything. So, and I even did meditation. I still meditate, but I said, I can beat this because, I had people saying, Terry, you got ADD. I said, I will transcend this with meditation. And I meditated 30 minutes, hour a day, 2 hours a day. Sometimes I would even do more than that. And it was helpful, but it did not solve the problem. So I had to, actually after I got COVID, or during COVID, I look back at my life and it's like, Terry, you need to deal with this. And so that's when I said, okay, I'm going to take this on head on and I'm going to deal with it. And this is where Western medicine comes into place, because I do take a low dosage medicine that is a game changer for me. It's really changed my life and how I can focus. And I'm really starting to implement and create what I've wanted to for a long time.
So I had a colleague recently tell me he's 40, and he was recently diagnosed with ADD.
Yeah.
And he's like, and so he's changed his diet, and he's experimenting too with some medication. And he's like, oh my gosh, he goes, this is how people live.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like opened up his ability to do what he loves to do in ways that he never was able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing where, I don't know, I guess I just feel so honored to be able to create something, provide something, or support people in their journey to be their best selves.
Right.
So that's a really big deal. So what would you say, one thing I always like to provide for our listeners is if somebody is wanting to know, well, how do I start and figure out what fat is good for me? What would be your recommendation?
Well, I'm a little prejudiced. I would say eat our bars and see how you feel. I would also look at, avocados. I would look at eating more vegetables, and not everybody's body's wired for this, but I know for me, I'll talk from my experience, and I've heard it from many other people, the eating more vegetables is a game changer as well. And then listen to your body. If you can really pull away from sugar for a while and eat stuff that is more nutritious, I think that's a good way to start. I do think the test too, the food test and allergy test is a good way to start, because I don't like to use the word diagnosis because things are so fluid in their own way, but to get some support around that, to start pointing you in the right direction, like, okay, you're having issues with this and this. Okay, I take that out of my diet and see how I feel. And then I add it back and see how I feel. So it's a lot of testing, but if you fundamentally can start adding good fat, get away from sugar, low carb, real food, vegetables, fruit, even too.
I've started, learned from one of our guests to just add something green to, because not all vegetables are created equal either. Something green with every meal. And it was kind of a challenge, but I'm getting good at it, right?
Yeah. I don't eat it with every meal, but I do eat. Like, I know when my body says, okay, Terry, you need to eat greens. And I eat a salad, usually is what I'll do. Or, Terry, you need protein. I'll eat protein. My body tells me. Your body will tell you. And your body will train your mind to tell you what you need if you listen. That's the key. Well, Terry, it's been such a delight to have you here. And like I said, I'm just kind of in awe of the journeys that we've taken, right, with this and good fat, and where we're going. Absolutely, we've been. I used to think of the word symbiotic. It's like we've ebbed and flowed our life. If neither one of us would be doing what we're doing if we weren't in each other's lives.
Yeah, and you had that product, and Dr. Schmidt said, "No, let's make our own."
Yeah,
and I feel like it's just the beginning.
Yes,
right.
I do
it's
too.
Just we're just finally we're getting good at it.
Yes.
So on that happy note, I just want to again thank you for being here and invite our listeners and community to check out goodfatlife.com. And also, we will put in the show notes how to find the bars. They're amazing. And the desserts at goodfatcompany.bar. Right?
.com.
Goodfatcompany.com. Okay. And yeah, like we said, it'll be in all the show notes.
Sherri, thank you for having me and inviting me to participate today, and for everything that you do for us. So thank you.
Oh, it's a journey. Yeah. Thank you. On that good thought, go out and live